Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Fridays wherever you may be. I'm coming to you live early today for a couple of reasons. One, we do not have Lock It In later today, so I've got no Friday television obligation, so I am about to be done for the week. I'd encourage you to go read the mailbag. Two, and more importantly, I'm about to go to David Williams' funeral, former Vanderbilt athletic director. As soon as I finish this show, I'm going downstairs, putting on a suit coat, hopping in my car, and driving to the funeral here in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I am headed to Mexico early tomorrow morning for the next week. I cannot wait to get there. Not sure if I'll do any work at all for the week because it's going to be a slow week in the world of sports. Okay, two big stories that I want to hit. A lot of different stories, actually. Cap, $20 million turned down on the AAF, the Chicago hate crime, Trump's wall, and the New York City decision to shoot down Amazon. A lot to get to, and I want to start with Colin Kaepernick. I want to share a story with you before I get to Colin Kaepernick. When I left Deadspin in 2008, I was making $80,000 a year and easily with bonus $100,000 a year to work at Deadspin in 2008 as a writer. I was also at that point in time doing daily radio. I was busy running around doing a lot of different things, but writing was my primary source of income. And I was, like I said, making $100,000 a year. At that writing gig. When I left Deadspin because I couldn't get along with AJ Delorio, they were editing all my articles. I didn't think AJ had the right direction for the site, all of those things. I made the decision that I wanted to continue to write. It mattered to me quite a bit. I was 29 years old, not that much different in age than Colin Kaepernick is now. I didn't have a job for 6 months. I finally got a job writing. It was at Fan House. They paid me $25,000 a year to write a buttload of articles, okay? That was less than half what I'd been making at CBS. That was around a quarter of what I had been making at Deadspin. But it was the most amount of money I could make as a writer on the internet as I approached my 30th birthday. On my 30th birthday, I agreed to write for $25,000 a year. Okay, that was my job. $25,000 a year at the age of 30, after having written multiple books, after grinding away for years, having one kid, and soon to have another kid. I bet on myself, humbled myself, took a lot less money than I thought I was worth. I used that as a prelude, yes, with a law degree, and with law school loans outstanding. I use that as a prelude to this story for an important reason. Sometimes in order to succeed in life, you have to humble yourself and take less money than you are worth. You can't focus on your salary at this moment in time. You have to think about where your salary might be in 5 or 10 years. Let's go back to Colin Kaepernick. Reports are that the AAF came to him and said, "We are interested in you being a starting quarterback in our league." Colin Kaepernick was asked how much he would need to make in order to make that happen. The average salary in the AAF is $75,000 a year right now. It's about $7,500 a game. They play 10 games. On top of that $75,000 salary, there are 8 teams. The entire league is capitalized for around $28 million, if you do the math on the rosters and the size and everything else. If you do all of that math, you recognize that when Colin Kaepernick came back, according to the AP, and demanded $20 million, Darren Rovell says he wanted more than $20 million. Colin Kaepernick is saying, I want as much money as the rest of the players in this minor football league get combined. Okay? that's a non-starter. That response is I am not interested in playing in your league. All right? If that is in fact true, that you are uninterested in playing in the league for any amount of money, then what I am telling you is he is uninterested in actually humbling himself and getting back to being able to play on the next level in the NFL. He is choosing not to play because he wants to be a martyr, because he knows if he gets in the NFL and he doesn't play or he isn't very good, then his story ceases to exist, much like Eric Reid's story ceases to exist. Give Eric Reid credit. He wanted to play in the NFL so badly that he took a below market value contract of $1.5 million or whatever it was to play for the Carolina Panthers. And as a result, he played really well, and he just signed a $20 million contract that makes him one of the highest paid safeties in the NFL for his age. If Colin Kaepernick had gone into the AAF, and if he had dominated for 10 weeks in that situation, if he had dominated for 10 weeks, as he should dominate, if he is an NFL caliber quarterback and the rest of the league is made up of non-NFL caliber players, this would be like Kaepernick getting to pass every day against a practice squad. Then he would have dominated for 10 weeks, and there would have been a big market of people out there trying to sign Colin Kaepernick in the wake of that domination. He would have bet on himself, much like I did for smaller dollars, although my dollars are up pretty high now, and in the process, he would have allowed himself to get back into the NFL, and he could do what Nick Foles did if he had the talent to get there. Why do you use Nick Foles as an example? Nick Foles had one good year, kind of like Colin Kaepernick. And that 27 touchdown and 2 interception year was not good enough for anybody to give him a chance in the NFL going forward. Okay? And as a result, he was making the decision to potentially leave the NFL. But then he was persuaded by Doug Peterson to come play with the Philadelphia Eagles. And as a result, when Carson Wentz got hurt, he got to go in and he won a Super Bowl. And now he's going to make over $20 million plus a year for the rest of his probable career in the NFL. Because he humbled himself, took a backup role, and then waited for the opportunity to come again. Colin Kaepernick likes to compare himself to Muhammad Ali. Let me tell you a little history lesson. Muhammad Ali was stripped of his heavyweight championship because he refused to go to fight in Vietnam, memorably saying, "I ain't got no quarrel with no Viet Cong," right? But when Muhammad Ali fought that stripping of his title, he didn't desire to become a martyr for the rest of his life. He made the decision to go back to fight and become heavyweight champion again. He didn't rest on his martyred laurels. He wasn't excited to remain a victim for the rest of his life. He wanted to prove he was the greatest. He wanted to prove he was the best fighter in the world. Even though he had faced prison for his decision, he made the decision to go all the way back to fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship, and he won. Kaepernick doesn't want to actually play football anymore. He just wants to get awards. He just wants to be a martyr. He wants to be a professional victim. He wants to be heralded for bad things happening to him. He doesn't want to actually be a star. He doesn't want to win the Super Bowl because deep down, do you know what he knows? He doesn't have the talent to do it anymore. And that's really why he started taking a knee to begin with, because he got beaten out by Blaine Gabbert, and he knew that he didn't have the talent, that the league had caught up to him, that his time had passed in the NFL. You want to compare Colin Kaepernick to Muhammad Ali, what you really need to focus on is the fact that Ali was the greatest of his era, and even the most ardent Colin Kaepernick defenders on the planet can't argue that he's any better than the 20th or 25th best quarterback in the NFL right now. And I don't even think he's there. I'm telling you that that is beyond a shadow of a doubt the real story about Colin Kaepernick and why he turned down the AAF. He wasn't good enough, so he is trying to create a story. Remember, he took a knee because Blaine freaking Gabbert beat him out head to head. Blaine freaking Gabbert. Have y'all seen Blaine freaking Gabbert play football? The San Francisco 49ers watched Blaine freaking Gabbert and they watched Colin Kaepernick side by side going at it. And they said, you know who has a better chance to win games for us? It's Blaine Gabbert. I don't even need to know anything else about Colin Kaepernick's career. You tell me that he went head-to-head with Blaine Gabbert and he lost, and that is not a man that has a lot of gas left in the tank. Period. So Colin Kaepernick, if he humbled himself and he still had a lot of talent, go to the AAF and do it. You know what? I want to say this too. We had Chad Withrow on the radio show, the radio show this morning, and he made a good point. He said, you know, Kyler Murray loves football so much. Kyler Murray loves football so much that he was willing to risk his entire baseball career to play football for Oklahoma in college for 1 year. That's how bad he loved playing football. He was willing to risk his entire career as a baseball player to play college football for 1 year for free. And while doing that, he was so good that he made himself an NFL career. You can criticize Kyler Murray for a lot, but you can't criticize his love of the game. Kyler Murray loves football and wants to play it. Colin Kaepernick doesn't. It's a good lesson in life. Some people love what being good at things gets you. The women, the money, the acclaim, the attention. Other people love what they do. You always lose to the guy who loves what he does. Anybody who does something ultimately for the money, for the women, for the attention, or for the acclaim, ultimately loses to the guy who does it for the passion. Now, it's not to say you can't love it and also love everything else that comes with it. But I got to tell you, that's a real life lesson that I have learned over the years. If you do anything for money, ultimately the guy who does it for love will be better than you. Almost always happens. Almost always happens that the guy who does what he loves beats the guy who does it for money. It's the truth. Kaepernick loves the attention of football. He doesn't love football. Credit to Kyler Murray. I think he loves football. I think he loves everything about it. All right. Chicago hate crime hoax. This guy, and I don't even know this guy. I've never watched the show Empire. I don't know anything about it. But I do know this. Most people are like me. They don't have any idea who the guy is who is in Empire. All right? Nobody has any remote idea. What's his name? Jussie Smollett? I never had heard of this dude in my entire life. So the minute that this story comes out, and people are like, oh, there's a couple of Trump supporters in the middle of downtown Chicago, and they have decided to pour bleach on this dude, scream racist and homophobic slurs at him, and put a noose around his head in minus 20-degree weather on a random night in Chicago. I was like, you know what? That doesn't really add up to me. How many hardcore Donald Trump supporters do you think even know who this dude is? I wouldn't know this dude, nor would most of you, if he was in the airport. Not to mention that it was in the most liberal area of Chicago. And this happened. And why would they do it? To threaten him so like he wouldn't be on Empire anymore? And then they let him leave and he just had a random noose around his neck? None of this made any sense. And all of it happened, and there isn't a single camera all over one of the richest areas of Chicago, on the roads, on the buildings. They can't find any evidence of it ever happening. Okay? I didn't talk about this story at the beginning because I felt like as everybody immediately rushes out on social media to condemn it, I said, you know what, this sounds a little bit suspicious to me. But I didn't touch it. I paid attention to the Covington Catholic story. I also paid attention to the story in Houston about the little girl who got shot allegedly by the white guy. You notice how that story just immediately vanished as soon as they found out that a black person shot that little girl? Did you see that? In the last 5 or 6 weeks, there have been 3 huge stories on social media. The first one was the young black girl who got shot by a racist white guy in Houston. Then it comes out that it was actually just a black guy who shot her. No white guy had anything involved after some white guy was wrongfully accused. And the story disappeared. Because a young kid getting killed by a black guy in Houston is not a story because it happens all the time. But when it was a white guy who supposedly did it, it was a huge story. It was racism, right? That Houston story has vanished. Have you read a sentence about it ever since they found out that the person who killed that little girl was a black guy? Disappeared. Isn't even talked about now. If it was a white guy, the story would be covered, the trial would be covered, everything. Just black on black violence, story disappears. Everybody was in an uproar over the racist white guy. Turns out guy had nothing to do with it, story vanishes. Covington Catholic. They hire an entire investigative team to research what happened on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial after everybody loses their mind on social media and blames all these high school kids. Report, you know what it says? The kids bought Make America Great Again hats when they were in Washington, D.C. The previous times they had taken trips, some of the kids had bought Obama Hope hats. They're high school kids in Washington, D.C. on a class field trip. It's commonplace that they would buy any kind of gear to root for the President of the United States. Because it used to be common in this country to root for the President of the United States no matter what, because you live in America, knucklehead. You want the country to succeed regardless of who is in office. Whether it's George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, Barack Obama. I rooted for all of them to succeed. Just like I have been forever. Because otherwise, I'd be rooting for America to fail. And why would I root for America to fail just because I didn't like the president? If Donald Trump asked me to do something to help the country, I would do it. If Barack Obama asked me to do something to help the country, I would do it. Whatever the situation is, I will always be out there to try and help the country. That is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the case. So when I heard that story in conjunction with the other one, I said, you know what, this is fascinating. This is really fascinating to see because we already seen the Covington Catholic story disappear. We already saw the shooting in Houston story disappear. I said, I don't believe anything about this Jussie Smollett guy's story. I thought it was akin to Michael Bennett and the fake racism allegations against the Las Vegas Police Department. And I thought it was akin to LeBron James and the fake hate graffiti that was on his racial hate graffiti that was on his gate. None of those were ever found either. And what will happen with the Jussie Smollett case, do you know what will happen now? Now that everybody like Kamala Harris said, oh, this is a legal lynching. It's a modern day lynching. And all the politicians ran out and screamed how awful this story was. Do you know what will happen? The story will just disappear. And this was a big part of my book, Republicans Buy Sneakers Too. I said, what all these stories, Michael Bennett makes up fake racism allegations, videos come out to prove it, disappears. Same thing happens with LeBron James, graffiti on the gate, LAPD investigates, no evidence it ever happened. All of these stories are very often false, and the story and the allegation receives all of the attention, and as soon as it vanishes, it doesn't exist anymore. We have moved, I think this is important, we have moved in an era where we have gone from if you're black, you are guilty of a crime even if you didn't commit it, to if you are black and you allege a crime happened, any white person who questions it is racist. It's still racist. We've skipped right over equal justice under the laws, right? It's just a different form of racism. We have swung from one extreme to the other. And this is why I keep coming back to the importance of facts, why I keep coming back to the importance of equal treatment, why I have said for a long time about Brett Kavanaugh that I thought it was a really scary moment for our country where people are saying, you got to believe a woman if she alleges that she was assaulted. Why? Why should I believe a woman because she's a woman when it would be sexist of me to believe a man because he's a man? Shouldn't I look at the evidence? And what's funny is all these identity politics are colliding now in the situation with Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor of Virginia. He's got two different women who are accusing him of sexual assault, much worse than what Brett Kavanaugh has done. And do you know what's happened? The Fairfax story, they're like, well, we're not going to do anything. What do you expect us to do? It's just an allegation. He's still in office. Now, I think that's the right response. But if your response isn't consistent, no matter what the race or gender of someone involved in a story is, that's called racism or sexism. Because by definition, you are treating someone differently based on the color of the skin or the gender. I try to do something radical. I try to treat everybody the exact same, regardless of what tribe they happen to be a party of, regardless of what race they are, what ethnicity, what political party, all those different things which are decided. I believe in due process. I believe in innocent until proven guilty. I believe that we should treat Fairfax the same as we treated Brett Kavanaugh. Most people don't. And why is that important? Because everything is based on precedent. The most important things you learn in law school is precedent is everything. In order to rule on this case, you have to examine what the previous cases said. And I think it really matters what precedent we set. And I think the Democrats in the Senate set an awful precedent with the way they responded to Brett Kavanaugh. Imagine what would have happened to Fairfax if he were a Republican, or even crazier, if he was a white Republican who was accused of sexually assaulting two black women. There's no way he'd still be in office. That would be Duke LaCrosse all over again, even if he was 100% innocent. It's important to apply precedent. It's important to apply logic to facts. It is important to actually use your brain, not rely on your feelings. A couple of other things I want to hit here. New York City and Amazon. This is troubling to me. And I want to give you guys a sense for what I believe. A lot of people say, well, Clay Travis, what do you believe in exactly? And I put this in my mailbag. I wrote it today. I'm kind of coming up with tenets that define what I believe. I'm going up on 40. I'll be 40 in April. And it's kind of important to me to kind of figure out what I believe in this day and age, because I think the country's a little bit lost its mind. And so I am troubled by the response in New York City to Amazon. As a general precept, a major corporation that wants to bring 25,000 high-paying jobs to your city is an incredible asset for any city. And I believe that Jeff Bezos, as a capitalist, is an all-star. And if I am going to vote for a Democrat in 2020, they're going to have to nominate somebody like Michael Bloomberg or Howard Schultz, because I believe capitalism is good. All right? Here are the things that I believe in on its most basic level. 6 things. All right? 6 things that I believe, which I don't even think are partisan, which I see a lot of people disputing in the country today. Okay? Here it is. Number 1. I believe Western civilization is the greatest thing to ever happen to humans on this planet. Western civilization is a good thing. This means, shocker, white men, not all evil. So I believe in the primacy of Western civilization and that it has been a net positive for people across the world. 2, I believe that capitalism is the best form of economy to exist in world history, and that a capitalistic democracy is the best combination of economy and governance structure to ever exist in the history of the world. 3, I believe that if you look at the data, and this is fundamentally supported, things are getting better across the world, not worse, every single day. We are lifting more people out of poverty, less people are dying of disease, and a big reason why is the embrace of capitalism across much of the world. 4, I believe a robust and uninhibited First Amendment should be encouraged, even if I don't like everything it is said, or even if, shocker, sometimes I'm offended by what's said. 5, I believe that cultural appropriation, far from being a bad thing, should be encouraged. If coffee is invented in Ethiopia, I want coffee in America because it's awesome. If the internet is invented by white dudes in America as it was, I believe everyone in the world should be able to use the internet. If democracy is invented in Athens and in Rome, in Greek and Roman history, and our leaders in America study the tenets of history to define a new capitalistic republican form of democracy, I believe we should steal. The best things in the world do not belong to a race or a culture. They belong to all of humanity. Cultural appropriation is a damn good thing. Finally, the 6th thing I believe, humans, particularly children, are strong, not fragile. We need to stop with all the coddling. We need to stop with all of this worry about feelings and words. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Teach it to every kid everywhere. It is not an idealized world when you believe that you are in danger and you are a victim at all points in time. Those are 6 things that I believe, the fundamental essence of my core, that I don't believe have anything to do with politics. And I see far too many people on this day and age in America who are rejecting those 6 things. Those 6 things, we're going to clip it, we're going to share it. If you agree with me, share it far and wide. Those are the 6 things that I think are the most important in general. Finally, I said I was going to mention Trump's wall. I think the national emergency is a good decision. I like the decision to go out and make the decision to let the courts decide whether or not Donald Trump has the legal authority to declare a national emergency. The wall is a metaphor more than anything else. I have said our immigration policies are broken. I believe that we need more legal immigrants, less illegal immigrants, okay? But I also don't begrudge anybody who is in Mexico or one of the countries south of Mexico trying to come to America to make 10 times as much money as they can. And I've said this for a long time. If you knew me, if you lived in America today and people in Canada were making 10 times as much money and had 10 times the quality of life, would you try and sneak across the border to live in Canada if you knew you could make 10 times as much money, and also that if you had children, they would be citizens of Canada? I think yes is the answer, you would. Okay? I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, yes, the answer is you would. I think just about everybody would. And so as I break this down in general, I think that the wall is a metaphor. 2020, we're going to have a big discussion about immigration, what's appropriate policy, what's inappropriate policy. I hope it's an educated, substantive, structured discussion. But in the meantime, I'm fine with the courts determining whether or not Donald Trump has the authority to make this decision, because it'll allow the country to move on to other things. We'll decide what the courts determine in terms of the powers of the presidency and whether he has the executive authority to do this. And in the meantime, we can move on to other things and hopefully resolve other issues that exist in the country. And then this will be something we table and try to decide in 2020. All right. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. If you enjoyed this show, we obviously talked about a lot of serious things in today's show. I try to do that on a regular basis with Outkick the Show. In the meantime, I love to gamble. I love sports. I love all of you. Go to mybookie.ag, use the code CLAY50 or Outkick if you want to get a 50% deposit bonus, provided that it is legal where you are. And kisses to all of you. Some of you are saying that the Smollett arrest has taken place. If so, like I said, another fake hate crime bites the dust. I love all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Not sure how much of the show I'll be doing for the next week. I'll be down in Mexico. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. Thank you for sharing and hanging out with me. I'll see you. Bye. Love you, Facebook.